can't do that well, and that's why I teach special ed. So good job, you. And I want to share with you something that I wrote recently to share with my family who really wanted me to go to grad school. Over this last summer, I decided this was going to be my last year teaching. It's my 4th year teaching. It was logical reasoning. I didn't mean to stay in New Orleans this long anyway. I never wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a journalist. That was the plan. And I was at a quarter-life crisis, which we all might be at right now, and so it was time to move forward with the plan. So I applied to a bunch of journalism schools. I had to resuscitate communication with all of these professors who I hadn't talked to in a million years just because they know that I can write a sentence. And I had to write a bunch of essays and shell out a lot of $100 application fees, and then I waited. Actually, that's not true. I meant to wait, but you can't stand still on a moving train. So while I was waiting, things were happening here. I teach here. And things weren't going well for my kids. Like a lot of people here, actually probably everyone in this room, I work with a lot of kids who have emotional behavioral disturbance, EBD. And they had some really extreme behavior problems, and they were getting suspended a lot, and so they weren't learning. And their behavior intervention plans weren't working that well, and so they weren't learning. And something had to be done. So I started to think about the kind of teacher that I wanted to be. And the world needs lots of different kinds of teachers. It needs teachers who are obsessed with micro-differentiation and can make lots of different kinds of lesson plans for all the different kinds of students at any given moment in time. It needs strong, strict teachers who have a warm voice but are also strict at the same time and can hold kids to exceptionally high standards, give lots of tough loves. It needs teachers who can teach 30 kids at once and manage them with some kind of magical je ne sais quoi and put up amazing T-charts at the exact same time. It needs all of those for sure. As far as I can tell, I don't have any of those skills at all. And a more realistic person would have probably taken those setbacks in stride and would have thought to herself, hey, it's no big deal. You're going to grad school next year anyway. You weren't meant to be a teacher. Gave it your best shot. Don't worry about it. But I'm not realistic. I've never been realistic. So that's not what I said to myself. Meanwhile, I was entering my 4th year as an Xhxhx teacher. Xhxhx is this great program in the city that does arts integration for kids. It provides professional development. I see you're nodding, so you know all about it. It's great. You should look it up. It does arts integration for kids, and you work with a teaching artist who comes and works with you. And this year, my small group focus was like art and math, and it was a visual artist, and she came in with all these great art projects that we got to do all the time, and I totally forgot we were learning about math, but we were, and I thought, that's something, isn't it? Now, a few of my kids were starting to act out to the extent that nobody really knew what to do. They were running out of the classroom and into the courtyard. They were, someone was throwing computers every day at teachers and other students. They were biting the disciplinarian, and I started to hear murmurs of expulsion, which I'm sure all of you have heard before. What else can we do? We've done it all, people were saying. So before you decide to disagree with that, what else can we do? I want you to take stock of just a few background details of some of these kids. One of these students witnessed a murder and the aftermath of a suicide within a year. One has been in more foster homes than years that he's been alive. One has been severely sexually abused. They've all been physically abused, at least by my personal cultural standards. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for any of these kids, but when you go through such profound trauma before you're old enough to ride a bicycle without training wheels, I think that traditional methods of learning are not necessarily going to work for you. What reason do they have to trust anyone? And while we might have tools to support we might not have the tools to support these kinds of emotional needs at my school, there's not really anywhere else to send them. Unlike schools for children who have exceptionalities like autism or Down syndrome, there's no school in the city specifically for kids with EBD. It's an exceptionality that so disproportionately affects poor kids in urban areas that few people are really putting a ton of money towards research